Hey, how's it going? I was wondering if I could answer your open challenge to libertarians.
Of course.
You got the phone reception to do it.
I'm sorry, what?
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So, I guess I should just explain my position so you don't have to guess which kind of libertarian I am. Philosophically, I guess I'm an anarchist. I'm an atheist to the state and government in general. I just don't believe in it. And I guess politically, I'm libertarian in that I'd be willing to compromise on reducing the size and function of government to like only the things that absolutely cannot be done in any other way. Like where government, in the rare case that government is the optimal solution, if that is ever the case, I'd be willing to compromise until we find some better market solution to whatever that particular problem is.
Okay. And so give me a sense of what those things are. Like, what do you think the government is doing now that could be picked up by private, by the marketplace? So let's start with what one of the biggest expenditures are that we have, right? So the military. Okay. Do you think the military should go away?
What, military? Did you say the military?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be like very seriously reduced. Like maybe 1% of our current budget. If you look at just our naval fleet, I mean, I think we have something like 10 or 11 aircraft carriers, most of those being super carriers. And, Russia has one, China has one, and they're like the old kind, not the nuclear ones. So I think America would be just fine. I don't think there's any real external threat to America. I think geography serves as a natural barrier to most threats. And I think, like the threat of terrorism is largely caused by our foreign policy in the first place. So, yeah, I'd like to substantially reduce the size of the U.S. military. Okay,
so we reduced the military. Now, the next biggest expenditure by the U.S. government, or I guess theoretically, it's not even theoretical by your definition, would be Social Security and Medicare. And do you think that we could do retirement insurance by the private, by the marketplace, as opposed to the government?
Yeah, so I think a better system would be, right now healthcare is...
Well, let's just start with Social Security and then we'll go to healthcare.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Can you say that again? You're kind of breaking up.
Let's start with Social Security and then we'll go to Medicare.
Oh, Social Security. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my argument against Social Security is rather straightforward and simple. It applies to all government. I think in one of your videos once you mentioned that Social Security is like the best thing that government does, or maybe something along those lines.
It's been the most successful. Hold on for a second. It's been, in my estimation, one of, if not the most successful government program that we have had in terms of reducing old age poverty, and it's also one of the most popular.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, like, even if we just give rough estimates, like Social Security, that's the thing that justifies government, I guess. Just that's one example. There is actually no government program that I can point to or look at and say, hey, this government program is so great, it somehow justifies the Vietnam War or the Iraq War or, among the various wars that are going. I believe, like, the government does such incredible evil that no program that's good can ever justify the incredible evil.
But wait a second. Didn't you? I'm sorry. I'm confused. Didn't you start this by saying that you're the type of libertarian who is willing to have some government programs as long as it's the minimal amount, the things that the market can't do better than government. So this, what you're talking about, your anarchism, I don't want to get in this argument about like, you think there should be no governments and because if they do, the amount of evil they do does not justify their existence whatsoever. But you've already started this by explaining to me that you're the type of libertarian who's willing to make that compromise and have some government. So you don't need to tell me about how you don't think there should be any government. Right now, we're discussing how you started this, which is that you think there should be some government. Sure. And I'm asking you, I'm going line by line as to the biggest expenditures of this government. I'm asking you, we've heard what you said about the military. We should drastically reduce it. I think you and I are at least have some measure of agreement on that. Now I'm asking you about Social Security. And your answer is not that because of what we did in Vietnam, we shouldn't have Social Security. Your answer is what? Should we keep it or not?
Yeah, so I would be willing to say that, yeah, sure, let's keep Social Security, I guess, until we can find a better solution. I believe a better solution is certainly possible through the market. I think Social Security.
Well, give me a sense of what that is. It's not the 401ks, because that's been a unmitigated disaster.
I definitely wouldn't call 401k a better alternative. My view is that just through raw market forces, wealth naturally increases over time, and what we're doing right now is reducing scarcity through technology. I believe the cost of everything is going to go substantially down in the future, just through economies of scale and things like that. I think even buying a home will be pretty cheap, and I think a lot of things in the future are going to be automated. And when we get to the point when we
okay, but let's talk about until we get to the Jetsons level and all of the largest source of wealth that Americans have is their homes. So if the homes go down in value significantly, we're going to need even more Social Security, frankly, from the government. It seems to me. But so Social Security we keep. What about Medicare?
I haven't really put too much thought into Medicare. My view is that all healthcare in America is totally overpriced, and that's mostly because of government regulations.
Really?
I think
how does that work?
Yeah. I think a better model would be like the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, where you have like price displaying companies. Like you walk in there and you need surgery on your wrist or whatever it is. And they say, okay, well, that's going to cost this amount. They don't have like this secret pricing system that depends on which insurance company that you have.
What government regulation? What government regulation causes secret pricing?
For one example is Medicare. They're very known to overpay, and all insurance companies.
Actually, no.
In general,
you got to brush up on your Medicare. Medicare is actually far more not only efficient in terms of delivering insurance, far more so than the private market, but it actually is the single greatest source of any type of price controls because it puts downward pressure on prices because they can group negotiate.
Well, I don't know, because I remember watching 60 or 60 or whatever that show is, and this guy was getting like a scooter or something. And to buy one outright was like $200 or $300, but if you go through Medicare, it's like $1,400, $1,500 or something silly like that. Or they would even rent it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like the people who are either too fat or otherwise immobile to walk in.
Yes, if you get any medical procedures and you have insurance, private or Medicare, your prices are actually higher. Mm-hmm. That's correct, but that's all insurance. Well, so you don't think there should be any health insurance?
Well, I know how this insurance thing works anyways, because I remember before you were required to have insurance, I didn't have it, and I would always pay a cash price, and the cash price was always substantially cheaper than what they were charging the insurance company.
How much did you pay for your cancer medication?
I'm sorry?
How much did you pay for your cancer medication?
Oh, I didn't have cancer.
How much did you pay for your
I don't have
the surgery that was required after your accident?
I didn't have an accident.
I see. And so, what kind of things were you paying for?
Like regular doctor visits.
Do you think that you're ever
stuff
going
like
to get maybe some major medical bill at one point in your life?
I hope not, but I certainly think it's possible.
Do you
have
think it's
insurance
probable,
now, but-
statistically speaking?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it's beyond possible, like probable?
Yeah, sure, it could be probable, but then
So
I
what are
would
you
rather
about
do
in
something
your
like the surgery,
mid-20s or early 20s?
the surgery center of Oklahoma?
Hmm?
I think that overall that would be cheaper than this.
It certainly will be.
insurance thing we got going.
Or it certainly could be. How old are you?
I'm sorry?
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
30?
30? All right. Do you have kids
Yeah.
yet?
I didn't catch that.
Do you have kids?
What? Do I have service?
Children?
Children, yeah. I have 2 children.
Do you have health insurance for those kids?
Yeah, I do.
Why? Or did you, let me ask you this. Did you before the Affordable Care Act force you to?
Did I defer?
No, before the Affordable Care Act made it mandatory, did you have health insurance for those kids?
Oh, yeah, because I was in the military.
You were in the
That's
military.
what made me anti-war and anarchist. I used to be in the military.
I see. And, okay, but you don't have to get health insurance for them.
Yeah, but it's really cheap and subsidized, so.
But, okay, but let me ask you a question. If it wasn't cheap and subsidized, would you?
Say that again?
If it wasn't cheap and subsidized, would you get them health insurance?
I don't know. Probably. I don't think I could have afforded it otherwise.
Okay, so you wouldn't have gotten them health insurance. How would that make you feel to have your kids going around without health insurance?
I'd feel pretty bad about it.
Yeah. So in other words, the subsidies for the health insurance that gives you the peace of mind of knowing that, God forbid, one of your kids gets some type of disease where you couldn't pay in cash for it. God forbid that happens. They're protected now. So you start to begin to see the value of a government. And that doesn't mean that the government doesn't do bad things.
Certainly, but then I think back to why is healthcare so expensive in the first place? And I see that as a function of government. I mean,
but you can't explain to me why that's the case. You can't explain to me why that's the case. You can tell me that a scooter, Medicare pays more for that scooter than a cash purchase does, but a cash purchase also pays less than private health insurance.
Well, here's the thing, like with insurance in general, but Medicare in particular, when a company knows that like a big, someone with a lot of money is going to make a payment here, they're gonna jack up the prices like immediately because they know that normal people couldn't possibly afford to pay like $300 or $400 just to see the doctor and get a checkup.
So are you suggesting?
An insurance company certainly can.
So are you suggesting
So
that
they'll charge them that.
without Medicare, prices of medical service would go down? That's what you're suggesting.
Well, I think most of the regulations in healthcare, I think that's what causes the cost to be so high.
What regulations? Like you need to clean syringes at the doctor's office? I mean, what regulations are you talking about that raises the price?
I think it's a lot of the paperwork here is kind of ridiculous because that's why we have things like medical tourism. It's just cheaper to do it in other countries. And, like if you want to go to Thailand for similar service, it's going to cost way more in America.
Right.
And I think that's mostly due to government regulations.
Really? But you can't explain how that's the case.
Well, there's a few mechanisms. For example, if you want to talk about like prescriptions and stuff, I believe that's caused by government and patents. If people aren't allowed or legally allowed to make generic versions or knockoffs.
Yeah, I think there's something. There's truth. I think there's some truth to that. But so you would. I think you and I would both agree on patent reform. That's fine.
Okay,
but
yeah,
do you know
and
who would provide
as far
patent
as, like,
reform? You know who would provide that patent reform, right? It would be government.
Becoming a doctor in America is ridiculous. Like, the amount of money that you have to pay for college here. Well, college isn't a bubble itself. That's another topic we could talk about.
Let's talk about Thailand for a second. You realize Thailand has a universal health care coverage scheme that is implemented by their government.
Yeah, and honestly, I think single payer would actually be better than what we have now with Obamacare. It's not ideal.
Well, I agree with you.
Just better. It's just better. That's all I'll say.
You know who's promoting? You know who the one candidate?
It's optimal.
You know who the one candidate in the entire race, Republican, Democrat, anybody? Well, or there's actually two, if you want to include the Green Party, who are promoting a single-payer health care insurance. It's not the Libertarian candidate, Rand Paul. It is the Socialist candidate running as a Democrat, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see the two of them in a debate, but I'm very...
Dude, I got news for you. You're not a Libertarian. You're a Socialist.
Well,
and you know what? I applaud that.
I'm equally likely to vote for Bernie Sanders as I am Rand Paul. I mean,
it really should be more. It really should be more because you don't have an issue. It's not a question of you thinking the market can do better. Why would you support single payer? That's the least market-oriented approach of healthcare, which is the largest sector of our, well, not the largest, but I think probably number 2 or 3 in terms of our government expenditures.
Well, because I think the system we have now distorts the market too much that single payer would almost be better.
Right.
Because basically what we have right now is corporatism. It's just a handout to the insurance companies who now they have all these extra new customers that they can for money.
Corporatism doesn't go away with a smaller government.
Yes.
It becomes more prominent.
Single payer is better than corporatism, sure, but it's not better than capitalism.
Right, and where is that capitalist exist? Not Thailand that you're talking about, because that's a government-run healthcare. Where does that free market medicine delivery system work outside of like Somalia?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, listen, I got to go, but I appreciate the fact that you're enjoying the socialized medicine of the military. You deserve it, but you know what? We all deserve it. And so, but thanks for calling.
Well, no, I don't think that the military should be the size that it was. Like, I don't think I ever should have been in the military at all.
I agree.
But I just was. People make mistakes, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not blaming you for it.
I wasn't an anarchist when I signed up.
Okay.
I think the Afghanistan war kind of created that in me.
Well,
I just see government as a mostly evil. I mean, I don't see how anyone could possibly justify the existence of government after knowing all the bad things that they do.
Well, government's made up of people. All of it is made up of people. And so by the same principle, people are evil. And if people are evil, then there's no point to any people. And then we're basically you got to also be pro-orb. So I appreciate the phone call.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
I mean, I agree. War is bad. And governments do some pretty evil things. And our government does some pretty evil things. There's no connection between that truth and the idea that you should then be against the government doing good things. And if you don't think that government can do any good things, you have to believe that Social Security is a bad thing. In which case, you would support the ending of Social Security, which this guy didn't. If you think that government cannot do good things, you can't possibly say, I would want single payer over a market-based system that we have now, because by the way that you think, if the market is bad in this instance, then it's going to be even more bad if there's more of it. But I'm glad your kids have health care. I genuinely do. There's nothing that scares me more than when people decide, like, well, I don't think there should be a government, so my kids are not going to get health care. And I have, over the years, run into people like that, and it's very disturbing.